I've wanted to cover this interaction for a long time, but I'm not sure if I have the right answer for it. Before I get into the actual interaction, I need to cover another one, and this is pretty high level stuff, so if you get a little bit lost here, I apologize. But it starts with Kudo King Among Bears, which makes things into 2/2s and bears in addition to their other types, and how he interacts with a card like Dress Down, which has creatures lose all abilities. Now this all deals with the layers, where we apply everything in the order of the layers, where Kudo applies a type changing effect on layer 4 first, and he also applies a power and toughness change on layer 7. Dress Down removes all abilities from creatures on layer 6. Now the important thing to know is that if part of an effect starts to apply to the object, then the entire effect will continue to apply even if some of that effect is removed later on. So Kudo's effect is one whole effect, but it applies in 2 different layers. So because part of that effect gets to start applying before any other changes are made to that object, the entire effect will begin to apply. Even though later on Dress Down will remove the abilities from Kudo, because part of that effect got to apply before it was removed, the entire effect is going to apply, which means that there will be 2/2s even though the ability is removed. Now that you understand that, we can talk about the actual interaction, which requires a Valkyrie's Call on the battlefield. Any non-token, non-angel creature you control that dies will return to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. But it also creates a continuous effect, which gives it flying and is an angel in addition to its other types. So if you were to crew a vehicle and it died, it would return back to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter, but even though it's not a creature, it would still gain flying. Now, obviously, because it's not a creature, it's not going to gain the subtype of angel. But the question is, if you were to crew the vehicle and it became a creature, would it gain the angel subtype? Because this part of the continuous effect is applying to that object, so the other part should be applying to it as well, right? Just like the continuous effect of Kudo making everything a bear would also make everything a 2/2 even though it gets removed later on in the layer. Would that same principle apply to this interaction? Really, the question is, what does can't mean exactly? When we look at the ruling, it says that can't effects takes precedent. To me, that sounds like the can't effect will take place until it no longer is relevant anymore. Once a vehicle becomes crewed, it will gain the creature card type. And since the effect of flying and is an angel in addition to its other types should still be applying, then now that it has the relevant card types, it can gain the angel card type. But there's one more little wrinkle to all of this, which is the Oracle ruling for the archetypes. Basically what it says is that if a creature gained an ability that it couldn't, then it just wouldn't stick, even if the archetype would leave the battlefield later on. So if I had Archetype of Courage on the battlefield that said my opponent's creatures can't gain First Strike, and my opponent plays Sure Strike targeting one of their creatures, even though this entire effect is 2 continuous effects in one, their creature would never gain First Strike from that effect, even if the archetype would leave the battlefield later on. And although part of that effect is still applying on the layers, the other half of the effect lost its chance to stick to the thing, so it won't ever apply. But the thing about this rule is that it only specifies it for abilities, not changing card types. But would it apply the same to types? It's not really exactly clear. I feel like what's most likely is that the vehicle would not gain the angel type even if it becomes crewed, but what do you guys think?